Hello, everyone, and how are we doing at the end of April? Tomorrow is the last day of April. There's a lot going on, and you guys are crushing it. So, you ready to head into May just guns ablazing, take no prisoner? I know most of you are. It has been great. I just want to do a quick recap on those of you who missed our live check in on Friday. Man, was it was exciting. We had some really great discussions. We talked about everything from the economy to, having a bad leader, a bad organization, a bad culture. Um, yeah, it's just such fantastic discussions that we had. Some great analogies that came of it. Food for thoughts. Just tackling how do you get after an organization if you're placed into a bad organization. In terms of you're the new leader, how do you approach that? What happens when you have employees who have hit that point of diminishing returns? They Your stellar workers, they work hard, they do well, they perform well. They're asking for extra hours. They're hitting those points where they're not performing at that standard. And it's easy to point fingers that, oh, this could be bad management, or they're lazy, or they're burnt out, or this or that. It's kind of a case by case scenario. You got to see what's going on. It could be anything from bad management. They could have something going on in their private lives. They could be just trying to gain extra hours, but they're burning themselves out. It could be that instructions are unclear on the project you give them. Maybe they don't have a realistic timeline, or the timeline for them is a little beyond their capacity in the time they were given. There's a lot to it. So there's no right or wrong answer, because you have to approach the scenario for what it is. But great discussions like that. Just really loved it. It was Wish you guys were there. Well, most of you were there, so definitely hope to see a lot more of you there next time. It's just all around great. Very informal, just very fun. It was just great to talk to people, see how things were going, and see how we could help each other out. The best part is the collaboration, the networking. So highly encourage you guys to come. All right, but this week, right, we're taking our talks up to a new way. We're going to go ahead and talk about big audacious goals and having a just cause, right? And a lot of people confuse really strong mission statements with just cause statements, right? But that's not the case. You know, that just cause is something that you are continually striving for. It's not something you're going to hit, because if it was something that you were going to easily hit, it's not a just cause, because it's the end. What do you do after that, right? So you think about certain just causes, like in the US, right? The Constitution, we the people of the United States, right? That's a just cause, because in our lifetimes, in our forefathers' lifetimes, in our lifetimes, in the next generation's lifetimes, we're not going to see that goal fulfilled. We're always taking steps towards it. We're progressing towards it, and we're supposed to get a little better each generation, each time, each year. But we may not ever see it come. But that is the whole point of having a just cause, because you are striving for this world, or, that quote unquote perfect world, right? So you always got to be a little better. It's always something bigger. It's always something more. So you take those steps to it, right? There's going to be a lot of mistakes that are on the way. You're going to start from a weird spot, but it's all about progress and getting better. So, how does that tie into your normal daily goals and your big audacious goals? Well, you got to still have big audacious goals to go after, but those are the goals that, yes, they're big and audacious now, and they seem almost impossible, but those are goals that you could probably hit within your lifetime, or maybe cutting into the next generation. But that is a very achievable goal in a very reasonable amount of time. But it's going for big. That old expression, go big or go home. That's kind of what we're getting at with these big audacious goals. You probably heard the expression, um, aim for the moon, and if you miss, you'll land amongst the stars. I'm not a big fan of that one, but that's the concept of the big audacious goal, right? You're going for excellence, you're going for the best, you're going for the greatest. But you can't stop there. It just, you don't hit that and it ends, right? We have these little goals that get us to these big goals, so on and so forth, right? Perfect example of this is the space race. We set a big audacious goal to land a man on the moon, well before the 70s. And look, it happened, right? So just to kind of wrap your head around what some of these big audacious goals look like versus a just cause and your normal daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, annually goals, right? Now, this is where this conversation for this week is going to get cool, kind of dicey, kind of weird, but kind of awesome because we're going to talk about how the importance of measuring those certain things and are you chasing the right goals and are you chasing a finite goal or are you actually chasing that just cause, right? In a lot of business, we tend to see we're putting what matters last, right? And what do I mean by that? You start seeing these people talk about, oh, we're doing this, this, and this at the benefit of our shareholders, our company, and our customer. That's so, yeah. The people who actually spend the money to make the business happen, to make everything work, you're putting them last, right? And that's not to say these business leaders are bad or they have a thing, but you could generally tend where their mindset is based on what they're prioritizing, right? You look at the early days of Walmart and the early days of Costco, right? They had these big goals and it was customer first, customer first, customer first, because they understood you can't make people's lives better if you're prioritizing your shareholders. And right, like I said, this is going to get into an interesting topic this week because, well, people say, well, you got to hit these goals and objectives. Well, if you're putting your shareholders first, they don't have a vested interest like that into the company, into the cause. They're there to make a profit. Sure, you may get those one-off, two-offs investors who do care and they do believe in the just cause. But if you're prioritizing the shareholders first, you're not looking at the people who actually shop there or buy your product or consume your product or use your product or you know whatever the case, whatever your industry. So you have to remember that because if you have smart shareholders, they're not going to want to be put first because why chase $500 now when in a few additional years I could get $50,000? But they tend to miss that, right? They're looking for those short, near term gains because it's easily measurable, it's easily seen right there, as opposed to a vision which is going to pay off bigger. Perfect examples of this, you look at the early days of Apple. And look what happens after Steve Jobs left and when they brought Steve Jobs back, right? You could look at Microsoft. Look what happens when the first person who preceded Bill Gates afterwards and who they had to bring back in to get the company back going strong, right? These are just a few examples, but this is kind of the thing we're talking about because it's uncomfortable. A lot of big leaders don't want to hear it because, I got to measure this and this and this. Well, but maybe you're measuring the wrong freaking things, right? Same thing with your culture. Are you measuring your turnover? Are you measuring a person's trust? Or are you just measuring their productivity? Because you can have high performers with no trust, no one likes them. It's a very toxic environment, right? People say, well, what about that one guy who doesn't perform for nothing, but he's very trustable? Yeah, teammates will go to bat for him and they will help him. They will help pull that weight because he or she is a great person. And guess what? The weird, cool thing about that is skills can be learned and taught and advanced. Maybe they're not a performer now, maybe because they haven't had the right training, coaching, right? It's kind of important to train your people and train them properly. And guess what? One PowerPoint slide deck doesn't cut it because not everyone learns that way, and that's not going to be enough or adequate enough. So that's where we're going this week. It's going to be a super exciting week. It probably will bleed into next week, especially because it's May. Why not? We're going to take May, no prisoners. All right, guys. So you tell me, how's everything going? How can I help you out? Always ready to help you guys out. Ready to see you crush those goals, hit those big audacious goals, and let's work on those just causes. Let's make sure they're actually just causes, or are you just rewording a big audacious goal? So we need to look at. All right, guys. Always here for you when you need me. Don't hesitate and stay good.